And welcome in. It's happy Thursday, I guess. Yeah, happy Thursday, November 11th. Not November 11th, November 7th. I had November 11th on the mind. 2024. Welcome in. We have a weird start to the show here, but yes, we were doing this a little bit early today for some reasons, but just wanted to get the show out of the way today. Figured you guys may be a little bit of a surprise here. Make sure you guys are following on the socials and whatnot. Of course, I'm Josh, your host. This is the Four Verticals podcast today. A little bit of a shorter show for this Thursday. Got some upset alerts, upset possible spots here for College Football Week 11. Got some thoughts on Mark Stoops. A lot of conversations going around about Kentucky football right now. Interesting timing, too, because basketball season just started for college basketball. Now, we don't cover college basketball realistically, but it is going on right now. And a lot of folks aren't happy about the Kentucky football program. I'll discuss that. It's a topic that's been sort of, I guess it's been something I've been kind of thinking about doing for a while, and we're finally going to do it. Also got some thoughts on Bucs 49ers that is happening this weekend on Sunday. So I have a big show going on, and what I am going to do here is go to the live chat, and just to confirm we are live, I'm going to say good morning in the live chat. If you're listening to this on the podcast form, this doesn't matter. So we're going to do that. Good morning. If anyone who's in here actually watching the stream, no one's actually here watching, but figures we would do this, go on YouTube and do a little live stream and whatnot, and may as well do it. We have the technology available. I'm still kind of new to this, by the way, so just give me some time to figure things out a little bit. But yes, we are live on YouTube. If you haven't subscribed over there, make sure you do. Nothing happens. I don't come to your house. I don't knock on your door and say, here, pay me some money. I don't send you emails. I don't call you on your phone. It's completely free. None of that happens. Same with Spotify. If you want to sign up, get an account. You don't have to do the premium version. You can do just a generic version. Listen to the show there. And that's where you can find us, at least the actual show. YouTube's fairly new. Spotify, I've always been on there. So if you've been wondering where's the other episodes and you've only seen these two episodes, today's episode, by the way, is 48. So next week, big 50 coming up. What's up with that? 50 episodes in, getting close to that, coveted 100 episode mark, which, by the way, is the, I don't know if it's still the rule for syndication and television, but I think it is. At least it used to be that way. 100 episodes plus, your show would be eligible for syndication, which means just reruns. I don't know if, I guess for YouTube purposes, it doesn't matter, but, a little behind the scenes there. But, if you're wondering where those other shows are, now, if you're new here to YouTube, we have 2 live shows, one a couple days ago, because we only do 2 shows a week, at least during the season, at least as of right now, though spring and summer probably do go to a 3-show format. Like we did, I think, this past summer. I think that works out a little bit. At least that's the initial plan. But if you notice, the other episodes before that, before episode 47, which was live on Tuesday, where's other episodes at? You may be asking. Those are on Spotify. For a long time, we were a Spotify-only show exclusively. Not anymore. We are a YouTube and Spotify now. So if you want to have YouTube live version or just the YouTube version, audio version, or do you want just a pure audio version on Spotify, choose one. Doesn't matter. Just make sure you subscribe there. Again, nothing happens. I don't show up to your house. I don't force you to sign up for anything. I don't give you a form. I don't force you to give me money. It's completely free. Easy, and just instant access to subscribe, get the notifications if you want to. But subscribing keeps us in your feed. That's kind of why we ask you to do that. A lot of shows do that. Well, every show does that. Any show that goes live or is on Spotify, to ask you guys to subscribe, because you don't subscribe and stuff gets lost, especially you have to go research. So it makes it easier for you. It makes it easier for us to just subscribe, have easier access, instant access to when new shows come up or when we're live on Spotify and YouTube. So just make sure you do that. Again, we'll be back on Tuesday, back on Thursday as usual. Same schedule. No hurricanes or anything that are preventing us from moving shows around. Thank goodness. Raphael is not actually going to be impacting anyone. That's a hurricane that's currently in the Gulf. Well, it was in the Caribbean. Now it's moved over to Cuba. It was actually a Category 3 hurricane for a little bit. Has since moved over. Looks like it was an impact land, which was, some people were wondering if that was an impact. Or at least weather-wise, there'd be impacts on the LSU-Bama game. Doesn't look like it. the system is going to stay somewhere in the Gulf and I guess die out at some point because of shear and cooler SSTs, sea surface temperatures. And again, that's not going to be much of a factor. And again, thankfully, that's not impacting me here in Florida. So looks like, at least for the remainder of hurricane season, which goes away in about 23 days, we don't have to reschedule or reshuffle shows anymore. At least going forward. Though I have it on good authority for the holiday season. Maybe may not be able to do shows, especially for the week of like Thanksgiving and like Christmas and all that. I'll let you guys know when we get closer to that. I know Thanksgiving is a lot closer, but for those, probably gonna have to do one big show. I'm gonna have to choose a day to do like playoff fight. I'm thinking out loud here, but it doesn't matter. I'll let you guys know in advance what we're gonna do with that. But I am starting to think about that, what we're gonna do for Thanksgiving and Christmas, because I probably won't be here more than likely. So, as per usual, as most of you will probably be traveling around that time. So, figured I'll just let you guys know that a little bit in advance. But once we get closer, I will remind you guys about that. But yeah, let's actually get into the show here. Got a lot of things to talk about. And I am going to get a quick drink of water here to make sure the voice will make it. It won't be a long stream today, probably, or a long show if you're listening to this in the audio form. But I'm going to get some water here real quick. Your podcast feed didn't go out. The stream's fine. You just got to get some water. Make sure the voice is going to make it throughout the show. Again, I don't think we're going to go that long, but who knows? Maybe the way I'm talking today and how long I want to really explain these games, who knows? We could be here for a couple of hours. Hopefully not. But yeah, let's get into it. Week 11 upset potential. We do this every single week. If you're new here, especially for those of you who are on YouTube, how we do upset alerts or upset alert potential, whatever. Choose whatever verbiage you want there, or adjective, I guess, in the correct term. We don't. Most shows have a system of 1 to 10, so you've probably seen that before, like the upset alert scale of 1 to 10. We do things a little bit differently. We use colors, like the standard traffic light, right? Have red, green, yellow. That's the system that I use, or on the show, that's what we use. Well, I'd say we, it's just me here. I'm literally wear all the hats of the show. I'm the editor, technology person, HR. I'm my own HR person. I'm the CCO, the CEO. So I make all the decisions here. And my decision I came up with when the show started back in June is that we would do, instead of numbers for upset potential, just do colors. Makes it a little bit easier, a little more diverse here instead of just copying what everyone else does. But I think the upset alert potential, or the upset potential segment, grant you, yes, it's similar to what a lot of our shows do, but it's not copying anyone. It's like, oh, everyone else does it, so why not us? Why not we? I say we because it's just me here. But anyway, let's get into this segment here. With week 11 upset potential, first game, Miami at Georgia Tech. You probably think to yourself, well, why are you talking about this game? This is, Miami's going to smoke Georgia Tech. It's going to be just a complete splattering. I don't think so. This is on the road, by the way, if you didn't know that. So it's at Bobby Dodd Stadium. Thankfully, it's not at the Georgia Dome, or what used to be the Georgia Dome site. Now it's Mercedes-Benz. So it's an actual home field advantage, unlike it was for Notre Dame when Notre Dame came to Atlanta. So it is going to be at Bobby Dodd Stadium. Have it out in full authority. It will be there. This game's interesting to me because I think of Miami when a lot of people are looking at them. You saw the Duke game last week. It was kind of a crazy, weird game. It was, Duke was up pretty significantly. Then Miami surges back, and they end up pulling away a little bit. You have the Louisville game, and everyone kind of looks at Miami and saying, okay, yes, offense is really, really good. Defense could be a little bit better. And I totally agree. I don't think, Lance Gittery, the defensive coordinator there at Miami, who's really good, him and Shannon Dawson, the OC over there, really good hires for Mario, especially if those two guys are not on his original staff, by the way. It's completely overhauled, and I think it's for the better. And I firmly believe that Lance Gittery, the defensive coordinator, not happy. I'm sure he's not happy. The defense has not been good enough, at least in terms of giving up a lot of points. They're still winning games. Yes, and yes, that's important to win games, but the way it's been looking lately, not good enough. Can Georgia Tech pose or, expose some of that stuff like other teams have been doing? And they could. I mean, Haynes King is actually having a sneakily good year, which is kind of surprising to I think to a lot of people who, probably don't pay attention to a lot of, this stuff and college football in general. But look at his numbers for King. If I should have had these actually put up a little bit earlier, but I didn't. Not terrible numbers. Um, the screen is loading here on the site I'm using. Yeah, I mean, he's 8 touchdowns, 1 interception. Yeah, it's not good, but at least he's taking care of the football instead of what he has been known to do, which is turn the ball over a lot. And I think that bodes well for Georgia Tech, knowing that, yes, he's not going to lose you the game for turnovers, but, I mean, 8 touchdowns is not something that's not good. But it's interesting to see what can they do, because, again, this Miami defense is to be had on. They have been exposed, so clearly their secondary has not been – I'm not going to say it's trash, because, again, we are talking about 18 to 24-year-olds, but it's not good enough, and at least it can be had on. It's a very susceptible defense. Can Georgia Tech do that? It's on the road. It's a warm weather team going to a somewhat cold weather climate, though it's not going to be too cold. It's actually going to be kind of warm, especially here in the southeastern region, not just here in Florida, but like a lot of those areas in the adjacent states here where I'm at. So that's not going to be too much of a factor, as it usually is. So it's a Cody Yellow. I'm watching it. It's a noon game. It's on the road. It's a team that's already been a top 10 team before. Well, it used to be a top 10 team in Florida State. Emphasize the word used to be, or the phrase used to be. But this one's interesting to me. I will be paying attention to this. Who knows? I could be watching this game at a local Buffalo Wild Wings here, or I could be watching it from home. So I'll be paying attention to this game like a hawk. Because I think there could be some potential there. We're watching it closely, but I don't know if it's. I mean, with it being a Cody Yellow, meaning I label it as a maybe. So again, I'm watching it. May not happen, could happen. It's one I'm watching. Actually, the first 3 here actually have the same. Florida, Texas, same thing. Cody Yellow. I'm watching this one very closely, mostly because everyone knows about the whole situation with DJ Lagway. Got hurt, though the indications are could be back this week. Could be back, which is fascinating because what was really weird is that the injury, and I think I mentioned this on Tuesday, that once Lagway got hurt, when he got carted off, I was watching, the UF Georgia game. Kind of felt like, man, that's here goes Florida, and you lose DJ Lagway. They were power rated fairly highly, at least according to a lot of people who do that stuff. And the betting markets were thinking very highly of Florida with the quarterback change, although it wasn't intentional, it was unintentional change. Then he goes down, and everyone's like, oh man, there goes Florida on the power rankings, they're on a tumble. Not necessarily. A lot of mystery on if he is going to start or not. If DJ Lagway does start, I do think the upset here, if there was more clarity, let's say if he didn't get hurt last week and this was, a situation where Lagway was healthy, I would have this as a code red. I would be very concerned. But since he's not healthy, I don't know if it's going to be the kid from, where is he from, Yale or whatever, one of those Ivy League schools in Division II, or NIFS. I would be very concerned about Florida. Like that to me says, okay, yeah, I would feel really good about Texas. Florida, I don't feel good about it because it's a quarterback downgrade. But because of that, the mystery here and the fact that some places, like, for example, like Josh Pate's power rankings, or power ratings, not rankings, and power ratings, and his power ratings, Florida's still in the top 25, or his list of 25 teams. Makes sense to me, right? If DJ Lagway's still there, doesn't matter if they lose, they're not moving anywhere. Again, I'm not going to defend Pate's power ratings at all, but I'm just telling you from a power rating standpoint, if Lagway is still the quarterback, they're still, if you're to list teams and 1 through 25 and he's favored over who on a neutral field, Florida's not going anywhere. It's not a ranking system, it's a rating system. So look, I can defend Pate's ratings for him, but I'm not going to, but I kind of already did, or I have been doing lately. But anyway, I say all that to say, it's a game I'm watching. If Lagway's a starter, clearly I'm watching because that kid's amazing, right? Because yes, he's green, but there's a lot of potential there for him to grow. And I think for last week's game for Florida against that Georgia game for them, a lot of things were learned, and I think a lot of folks, at least from the general public side or the fan perspective, anyone who watched the game, even if you're not a Georgia or Florida fan, you have to at least respect the fact that Florida has not quit, despite the fact how bad the season started. And I will say this, and I will continue to say it. I don't know if Billy Napier's going to get fired or not. I don't, like I've mentioned before, I don't advocate for guys for getting fired. I'm one of the last people to do it, unless it's pretty obvious, like a scandal, or just things are just not really going well. And there's a lot of other people who are saying that there's a real chance he could get fired. the way the team's not quitting on them, it's sort of like Dave Aranda and Baylor, where the team's not quitting with Baylor. The Aranda's gonna be fine. In fact, they're probably gonna make it to a bowl game, probably. Shocker, right? Right? Like, what's up with that? Baylor and Dave Aranda. Everyone thought he was gonna get fired, and then here he is pulling a Neil Brown at West Virginia and just saving his job another year and keeping him around. And look, I like Dave Aranda. I like Billy Napier as coaches. I think they're good coaches. Their staff, well, at least for Billy Napier, he has a very good staff. It's more other things that have been problems for them, recruiting being one, at least for the most part. Aranda's a little bit more, yes, he's a fairly new coach still, even though he's been there for 4 years. He's still fairly new. It's his first big head coaching gig. But yeah, I think for people in the general public who have not watched Florida since probably that Texas A&M game a couple months ago, they're not quitting. They are, in fact, the opposite of quitting. They're probably a team that's a little bit surging at this point, though they're not winning a lot of games. They're trending in the right direction. And I think this weekend, if Lagway starts, I'm watching that game very closely for Texas. But if Lagway's not the starter against the kid from the Ivy League school, then yeah, Texas probably has a lot more advantages there, and they don't have to necessarily going from DJ Lagway. I'm not trying to be mean here, but going from DJ Lagway to whoever I don't even know the kid's name, I forgot. But going to him to the third stringer, that's like DJ Lagway puts the fear of God into you. Giving very, very morbid phrase there, but other people have used it before, so I'm not. Yes, it's an interesting phrase, but I think it works here that he doesn't put a lot of fear into you, the backup quarterback, versus DJ Lagway. And I think if you're a Texas fan, I think for your sake, you would much rather have the backup third stringer come in instead of Lagway, because Lagway, again, a lot of mystery there. You don't know what to expect from him. He's a freshman, not a lot of film on him except from high school, and has very limited snaps throughout the year. So, say all that to say, it's a game I'm watching, that Texas-Florida game. It's a code yellow. If Lagway was fully healthy and starting, would be a code red. And even if he's not, fully healthy and he's still starting, I'm still watching it. But currently there might be some limitedness because he did get hurt, and that's not going to go away or anything. But anyway, still that to say, it's a game I'm watching. It's a code yellow. Just paying attention to it. You guys know that Michigan's going to Indiana, and they're a 13.5-point dog. Never thought I'll ever say that. This is kind of jarring if you're Michigan. Excuse me, weird hiccup there, or burp, kind of both. This is a weird situation for Michigan. Well, just both weird and jarring. I was going to say before what just happened. It's pretty jarring to see this. I mean, I frankly never thought this ever happened, that Indiana would be a 13.5-point favorite against Michigan. And football, mind you. This isn't basketball. This isn't ice hockey. This isn't like the rowing club or the bowling team. This is football. And this is the Michigan program that won the national title last year. Now, grant you, it doesn't really matter because you're not defending. It's kind of, I agree with Josh Pate here. When you're saying Michigan's defending champs, like what, the trophy's going to leave the trophy case? Well, no, it's not. But I don't know. It's a weird term. I kind of agree with him. That's kind of an overused term. They won the program has a national title from last year. It's not going anywhere, but they won it last year. The program did, or at least the school won the national title last year. Now you're seeing the team fall apart. I went over the Jerome Moore stuff last week, my concerns about him and his future there. It's been well documented, but I think for Indiana, because they have Ohio State coming up, this is probably the two biggest games of their year, or at least in the regular season for them. It's Michigan this week and then Ohio State, at least at this point. These are the two biggest games of their, at least in the regular season. It's a little head spot. Michigan is definitely a team that is fighting and hungry for another big win. The USC game is sort of an example that maybe the team's not totally quitting, but I mean, I don't know. I mean, look, I was wrong about the game last week. I thought Michigan had a good chance to pull off the upset. I thought maybe they can harness some of that energy from the USC game. Very similar. Didn't matter. But this game's a yellow for me because, again, it's a low cat spot for Indiana. But it's not a red because I know what Indiana is capable of, which is fooling me and fooling a lot of people into thinking, oh, last week, Michigan State, Aiden Childs. Yeah, I mean, sure, this year, Aiden Childs is basically, Jameis Winston 2019 for the Buccaneers. And he's a really exciting player to watch, but he also makes a lot of bad mistakes. It could be a little bit fun, right? Upset potential, it's on the road, this run that Indiana has can't sustain forever. Well, it's sustaining. They were down 10-0 last week, and then they went on. They basically went on and to just absolutely destroy Michigan State. And they were down 10-0 in the first quarter. So I think that tells you how drastically jarring that game was if you're a Spartans fan. So knowing my respect for Kirk Cinetti, Coach Sig, I kind of feel like this Indiana team, at least against the teams that they're, I guess, talent-wise, they're equal to or just around a little bit above, they're probably going to win most of those games, at least with the team's looking this year. So I'm not too concerned, but I am concerned. So it's kind of a situation where I'm kind of okay, but not really okay if I'm an Indiana fan, because yes, last week everyone's picking us to lose. We didn't. We actually covered the spread mightily, even though we were down 10-0. Then we go to the Michigan game. Everyone's very confident. The CBS will be there. So Brad, Gary, and Jenny Dale will be there. I think probably the first time ever CBS has been there for a college football game. Been there for basketball probably multiple times. I mean, why? I mean, that's kind of obvious. But for football, I'm probably their first summer of being there. Trying to actually, no, that's incorrect. They were there last year. So mistake. They were there last year. But in terms for a big game, yeah, first time they've been there for a big game. At least Indiana has been ranked, so at least that's correct. I forgot they were there last year for Ohio State. When Ohio State came there last year, week 1. But anyway, I say all that to say, I'm watching this game. I'm not too concerned. But if I were an Indiana fan, it's going back to the whole I'm kind of okay, but not really okay, because again, we have Ohio State on deck. It's a look ahead spot. Michigan still has a lot of talent. The defense still has a lot of pride on it, with some pride with it. But it's also an offense, or it is the worst offense they have faced all year. I mean, yes, even though Aiden Childs is, 2019 Jameis Winston, he's still going to throw for a lot of yards on you, and even though he's probably going to turn the ball over a lot, interceptions or fumbles. But, again, with all that being said, it's a game I'm watching. It's a Codiola. I'm not too concerned, but I'm also a little bit concerned because it is a look-ahead spot for Indiana, and it's a program, at least to this extent, at least in my lifetime, like the closest we got, or at least closest thing to this, at least to this Indiana team, at least this version, this type of Indiana team, was probably 2020 when they were a very good team. That was a Tom Allen, Michael Penix's second to last year there, and that team finished 6-2, I believe, with a bowl win, or I think 6-3. Something like that. So within the past 4 years, there's been another team that's been sort of like this, but I think this year's team, I guess, is probably better. But then again, comparing teams, it's like, I don't know, whatever. But what I'm trying to say, it's a program that's not been to this level before in football. Now in basketball, yes, they've been there multiple times. I don't have to tell you that if you're a basketball nerd and follow that side of college athletics. But for football wise, this is new territory for them. So that's why I am a little bit concerned. Because, again, that Ohio State game's coming up. It's a local head spot. Traditionally, teams in this situation, when they're looking at a big game, either struggle or just lose the game outright. And we are in a season in 2024 where it's giving us, I'm not going to say totally 07 vibes, but they're certainly there. So this is one of those games where everyone's going to look at the score come, I don't know, like 6:30 Saturday afternoon and be like, huh? Like, why is this game tied at 2020 with a minute 45 left in the fourth quarter? Well, because it's a look-ahead spot for Indiana. It's a team, grant you, that they have looked good with, first competition they've been playing, which kind of goes into this whole other rabbit hole here. I'm not going to go too deep in this, but anyone who's criticizing Indiana for playing their schedule, they're playing their schedule. It's not Kirk Cinetti's fault that they're given the schedule they're given. It's not, they didn't choose this. At least their conference games they didn't choose. Now the non-conference games, I'm sure you make an argument that yes, it is Indiana, right? You have to, if you're going to use a Bud Elliott term, take the checks, take the losses, get the wins you want, but understand you're going to lose a lot of games. Of course, they didn't know this was going to happen, but they're looking good against a relatively manageable schedule. It's like Louisville last year. They look good versus a very workable schedule. That's what you're supposed to be doing. In fact, if Indiana was actually worse than their record is right now, I would actually be, I guess if you're not an Indiana fan, it's okay. That's what I expected. But anyway, what I'm trying to say is they have looked really good against a workable schedule. Like what they're doing, like beating teams at this margin, is what you should be doing versus a schedule like this against the teams you're playing. So looking good versus a very workable schedule, which is expected. There's nothing wrong with that. you can criticize it all you want, but that's just there's nothing in Indiana and like you're gonna blame Kirk Cincinnati for scheduling like the teams they scheduled in the non-conference. It wasn't his fault. I'm sure you can get mad at the school for doing that, but again, going back to the whole take the checks, take the losses, right? I mean, it's Indiana, right? You shouldn't have to be scheduling a game against like Notre Dame or a game against I don't know like Georgia. Like you don't have to do that. You need to make sure you at least make a bowl game, at least win some games. Again, I'm not going to go in the whole rabbit hole. Folks have done that before, but I say all that to say I've nerve said that term again. Anyway, but I'm trying to say here is that I think Indiana is I think in good position to win this game. It's a game I'm watching though, because again, you have a host sit on deck. They've never really been in this position before. No one in Mount Arlington, they've never been in this position before. So I literally just spent like 10 minutes talking about this game, but I didn't really even pick the winner. But I mean, I think Indiana's going to win the game, but I'm just saying, just warning you that it's a game I'm watching. The look at that spot. That's all I'm saying. Clemson, Virginia Tech. It's a code red. First code red here on the list. Talked about this game on Tuesday. Nothing else to say. Don't like where Clemson is. I like Virginia Tech here. Brent Pry Company due up for a big one. I think they finally get it. Enough said. This one's interesting. So Colorado. I haven't talked about Colorado, I think, at all in a few weeks. And look, shame on me for not doing so because they're having a surprisingly good year. I'll be honest. I am surprised by this. I know a lot of folks, not just me, other folks in the street, criticized Dion for letting Sean Lewis go and bringing in Pat Shurmur, who's a failed NFL head coach. Changing up some stuff on the staff. I'll be honest, I was pretty critical. I'll be honest, and the way their season's going is they're real Bill Elgin now, by the way, which is huge for them. I know a lot of folks, other folks in media will say, well, Elgin was not good enough, then he can be a playoff contender. To that, I do say slow down just a little bit. Yes, it is the Big 12. Things can get a little bit crazy there. It is, as Josh Pate says, America's college football conference. I just caution you using the playoff term of Colorado because sort of like Indiana, they haven't been there before. So I just want to, just be careful with that. Yes, it is very exciting. Shador's having a good year. Travis Hunter's having a good year. Those two guys are probably, at least one of them will be in New York. I still think Travis Hunter is probably the best player in next year's draft. I know that's contrary to popular belief. I think he should be the number one overall pick. Just from an athlete perspective, I mean, any team that's going to need him. I mean, I'm not going to bore you guys with NFL stuff here because that's not what the show is, but there's a lot of teams that could use him. A lot of teams that could use him at any position, corner, receiver, but this is a very good team. Talent, top heavy of a talent. Depth, though, I am still concerned about, especially if this far into the season, like if injuries start to happen, like, what happens are any of these guys behind the starters, are they good enough? We'll see on that. But they play Texas Tech. And look, I mentioned Texas Tech a couple weeks ago about them being a team that's not left for Dallas team, a team that was left for dead, that is still alive. Everyone a couple weeks ago, or actually a couple months ago, when Tech lost to Washington State, and everyone's saying, "Oh man, you better Texas Tech needs to fire Joey McGuire and go get J.G. Keane from Texas State." I'm like, hold on just a minute, and simmer down here. But it's a long season, and Washington State has turned out to be a relatively good team, a reasonably good team. Albeit they're not really in a conference. They're basically a G5 team now. But anyway, with that being said, Texas Tech's still a good team. Like, they beat Iowa State last week, and they're going to be playing at the home to Lubbock, Texas. It's a very tough environment, especially when the team's good. I mean, there's been several games. I don't have to tell you, 07, when they beat Oklahoma, 2008, 2018, when they almost beat Oklahoma again with Kyler Murray. I, for some reason, strangely remember watching that game. I don't know why. I'm not a Texas Tech fan. I know folks who have went there before or who have graduated from there and went there. People I know personally, or I've known from my life here journey. But it's a very interesting environment. It's very, very underrated. It's a tough place to travel to. Like, Lubbock may as well be in like Mexico. Like, it's kind of close. It's like out in the middle of nowhere. It's a desert. A lot of tumbleweeds out there. A lot of prairie dogs. Probably a lot of wild animals. It's a small stadium, so the crowd there would be, it's smaller crowd, a lot more louder because it's a very condensed area. Anyway, it's a tough spot for Colorado here, and I have this game labeled as a red because even though yes, Colorado's off a bye, I kind of worry because we've seen this for a lot of teams. You know, Clemson has had this problem. UCF has had this problem, famously. That even though when you're off a bye, people think that hey, that bye advantage works. It doesn't always work. It does work, you know. LSU Ole Miss, classic example. Though I think this year that little nugget, or I guess nugget of information there, or a little trivia there, when it comes to predicting games using the bye advantage, has not actually worked like that much. Like it worked for the Ole Miss and LSU game. Clemson Louisville was the other game that a lot of folks are pointing out. Obviously didn't matter then. So what I'm trying to say is yes, the bye advantage for Colorado helps a little bit because they're off a bye and you think they're going to be good. But so far this year, it's been the opposite. Teams off a bye have not done very well. At least the games that I follow and the teams I do follow. So I just wonder if for Colorado, you're off a bye. You saw the chaos that happened last week with Kansas State going down and Iowa State going down. All of a sudden, it's you and BYU, Brigham Young, and you guys are, the two head honchos, or at least one of the four teams that are competing for the spot to Dallas. I just worry with a team like Colorado and the personalities are there. Again, look, it's a good story. I'm happy I was wrong. Okay, I'm happy I was wrong about the team. I'm still not crazy about Pat Shurmur, but at least it's working out somewhat. I just worry, is this a situation where, yet again, we're victimized by the bye advantage? Okay, they're off a bye. Meanwhile, Texas Tech came off that big win over Iowa State. Is there, excuse me, is there an advantage there for Colorado? I don't know if there is one. So that's why that one's a red. It's on the road. Just be careful. I know a lot of folks disrespect Texas Tech. I like Joey McGuire's doing a pretty good job there. Really good recruiter, by the way. Doing a really good job recruiting. But that one, I have a lot of concern about that one. I actually have another Big 12 game later here in just a few minutes. I'll talk about Florida State, Notre Dame, Green. This one's obvious, right? Notre Dame's favored by 25.5 according to FanDuel. So generally, not real threat here for an upset, more than likely. What's crazy about this is that this was going to be the biggest headline game of the weekend, or at least one of them. Obviously, Ole Miss, Georgia was going to be there always. LSU, Bama, of course, every single year it's a headline game, regardless of how bad LSU has been at some times in the past couple of years, or drawing years. But man, it just sucks that Florida State and Notre Dame is not a headline game. And me included, and a lot of other people thought it would be. We were wrong. And it's to be honest, it's kind of sad. I would have liked to see that had this game be a headline game. I know a lot of folks wanted it to be or wished it. Sort of going back to that wish fulfillment, wishing something to existence, but that doesn't guarantee anything. Just sad. It really is sad that a Florida State Notre Dame game has a team favored by 25.5. If this was Notre Dame versus a G5 team, like I guess the G5 team makes sense, right? Of course, that's a reasonable spread. That makes sense. But being favored by 25.5 against Florida State, that's crazy. That's insane. That's I can't even imagine, telling myself back in spring and summer, hey, this is Josh from the future saying, hey, Josh in the past, Notre Dame and Florida State playing this year, one of those teams will be favored by 25.5. I'll be like, there's no way it's going to happen. And Josh in the future tells me, oh yeah, it is. It is a possibility. Never thought we would ever be here, but here we are. So unfortunately, no threat here for Notre Dame. I think Florida State, I don't know what else to say. It's a lost season. It is what it is. There's a lot of, things that Florida State has to look at least going forward, at least if their modus operandi and how they do things, particularly if, relying on the portal a little too much and not too much on recruiting. I can discuss that down the road. They're not really relevant. I just brought this game up just because it's just disappointing that this could have been one of the headline games of the year, and then now it's going to be the snooze. Like, I don't guarantee not a lot of folks, unless you're unless you're a college football sicko, a Notre Dame fan, or a sadistic, you're watching this game. That's going to be a very small population that will be watching this game. I highly doubt any Florida State fans. I know some of you doubt you guys will watch this game. I mean, unless you're sadistic and you just love chaos and anarchy, then go ahead, watch the game and go see Notre Dame win this game by 50. That's not a prediction, but it's sad, man. It really is. It didn't have to be this way, but unfortunately it is. Last game here I want to talk about here for the upset potential. BYU, you guys know that BYU goes to Utah. Holy War, by the way. Rivalry game renewed for the first time in a couple years. This one concerns me a little bit. So BYU is favored by 3.5. According to FanDuel, again, it's not betting advice. Just a little disclaimer. I should have said this before beginning of this segment. This is not betting advice. This is not me encouraging you guys to go bet. I'm just using the FanDuel line to give you a gauge of why sort of a gauge here for prediction purposes. But BYU minus 3.5 at Utah. This one concerns me. BYU is a team that I think from both a ranking standpoint and a power rating standpoint has been just frustrating. Just an absolute, I'm going to call it disaster because, look, it's good BYU is winning games. That's great. Kalani Sitake, by the way, multiple good seasons there. Had the Zach Wilson year, then this year. So he's done a quietly pretty good job over there. I know a lot of folks, especially his first year. What was it, first year or second year when they went like 4-9 or some weird record because they think they played Hawaii? That a lot of folks were worried about Sitake being there, and a lot of folks were concerned he wasn't going to make it. When he's making it, he's fine, and they're having really good success there. But just from a power ratings perspective and a rankings perspective, you're ranking teams or rating teams. Again, both of those terms are very different. It's been a massive headache for those people because if you look at BYU, it's like, okay, the Kansas State game, those turnover luck. And also doesn't help that Kansas State's a bad team on the road this year, or has not been a good road team this year. It's just, not to mention too, they've been underdogs in so many of these games, and they're winning them. Like UCF a couple weeks ago, just absolute splattering in Central Florida at UCF, and it's just been so weird because everyone in Vegas and the power ratings world does not have BYU in the top in their list of 25 teams here to do that. I know Pate had to manually override his own in-house model to put BYU in there because a lot of folks are complaining about it. Which, to be honest, I don't know if I would do that because I don't know if BYU is a team. If I were to list teams, again, not trying to defend Pate's power ratings here, but if you were to list teams 1 through 25, looking at all the variables, doing the math, doing the calculations, getting the calculators out, I don't really believe BYU is a team that would be favored over certain teams. Like, I don't know if BYU would be in a list of 25 teams and teams below them. Like, I just don't know if they'll be favored. And you've seen that in the point spreads. Like Central Florida, for example, when they went to Orlando, they were underdogs in that game. Now, it didn't matter because they won the game outright. So, anyway, look, this is a weird team to figure out. BYU, it just is. They're a good team. I don't think they're an elite team. And it sucks, too, because, again, if you put, switch out the brand name, right? If you take away the BYU brand or the name, you just put a tiger logo, a tiger paw, or a crimson A, or a O logo for Oregon. If you replace the logo, you go, oh, yeah, that's like that's a top 2 team. Yes, I would agree with you on that. And unfortunately, in college football, or at least in some people's minds, at least in the rankings world, yes, brand stuff doesn't matter. In the power ratings world, it's a little bit different. But anyway, I still have that to say. Here we go again, using that same term. I guess may as well just finish it. I still have that to say. Hopefully, the last time I said during this show, it's like that, and the Franklies and the other stuff. And I'm not the only one who has that problem because a lot of other folks. It isn't just me with reusing terms. It's convenient to reuse phrases and terms, but in words, it does sound kind of verbotic. But anyway, I have a lot of concern because this is a rivalry game. And again, going back to that analogy, or not analogy, but I guess scenario with the buy advantage, how it's not been going out well for predicting games. Again, this one, BYU's off a bye. Does it help them? I don't know. Yes, realistically, it should help because you're rested. Meanwhile, Utah I think they're off a bye too. Let me go double check. Realistically, I should know this, but I for some reason don't. So forgive me if we're not doing this. I'm going to look up Utah. Doing this on the fly here on. If you're listening to this in the podcast, it doesn't really matter. Let's see here. Are they? Okay, so they're also off a bye too. So both these teams are rested. So there's no real bye advantage here, unlike the Colorado game. But still, it's a rivalry game. Both teams are rested, and yes, I know Cam Rising is for all intents of purposes, he is basically dead. He's not actually dead, but in terms of his football career, it's dead. He's not coming back. More than likely, he's done. You've probably the last time you saw Cam Rising in a Utah uniform was a few weeks ago. Like that's it. He won't be playing anymore. More than likely, it's almost becoming a meme at this point. So their backup quarterback again, going back to the does he put fear into you like Cam Rising does? And fear of God into you? No, he doesn't. He doesn't. He wouldn't fear me if I was a defensive coordinator. But I don't know. But I can't really say that because I'm not a coach. I don't have a football background. I do have history in high school sports, not football related, but it doesn't really translate there because it's not the same type of sport. What I'm trying to say is that it's a rivalry game. It's on the road. Just be careful. BYU, much like Colorado, really benefited off of Iowa State losing, Kansas State losing, so they're certainly feeding off that energy. Do they harness that into going into this rivalry game making a statement, or do they read their own press clippings and do they get distracted and do they, just sleepwalk into this? And you have Kyle Whittingham and a very experienced coach would love nothing to get a huge win to, I say, salvage their season because they can still do that even if they lose, but to very least give people some hope a little bit. Because obviously Whittingham, if you don't remember, if you don't know this, he's not going to be there much longer. He's announced that he will be retiring soon. Just as getting ahead of it. Will be interesting to see if he gets one more big win over BYU at home. So, that's a sneaky game right there. I just don't know a lot of folks paying attention to it. I think he should be. But so that one to me, Code Red, very concerned. So I will, like every single week, I'll post these on Twitter at some point, just to let you guys as a reminder for games I'm following. Again, the FanDuel stuff, using them as a source. Again, it's not for betting purposes. I'm not forcing you to go on there. If you want to, you can. But for predicting purposes, I use the FanDuel number just to give you a gauge of what Vegas feels and versus what I feel, if I agree with them. So I'm going to get another drink of water here. Have some Mark Stoops discussion here. Won't be too long, but just some thoughts on what's going on there. So again, your podcast feed's not going out. The show's not, the audio's nothing wrong with audio. I'm just getting some water real quick, and it'll be back here in a moment. So just got some water there, so we should be good to go. Again, if you're, I guess as we're at the midway point here of the show, if you are new here, again, welcome in. We do this show twice a week, talk about college football, Star Wars news, Marvel news, Buccaneers stuff as a Buccaneers fan. Talk about that towards the end of the show. As I mentioned before, or in past shows when they're exclusively on Spotify, that unless the Buccaneers win the Super Bowl, which granted this year probably not going to happen, they would be the headline only for that. Like if they won the Super Bowl, they're the headline for that show only once every year potential. So this year probably not, but if we did the show in 2020, they would have led. So at least that Tuesday after show, they would have led that show. But unless they win the Super Bowl, they will never lead. It won't be a lead topic. They'll usually be towards the end. College football is a priority. Star Wars and Marvel news is a priority when it's there. At the moment, nothing really going on with both of those right now. I do know that Skeleton Crew for Star Wars is coming out. That's the next Star Wars Disney Plus show. That's coming out, so I'll probably do some coverage on that. I know a lot of folks are concerned about it. But I've seen the trailers. It looks cool. I mean, you have Jude Law in there, so he's a good actor. It's obviously connecting to the Filoni stuff and what he's doing with Thrawn, with sort of, but also not really. It's kind of weird because the show's not really connecting that type of stuff, but kind of is. But either way, I will probably do reviews on that on those episodes when they come out. when I can, because it is going to be close to Christmas, so some of those might be a little bit delayed. But anyway, traditionally, when there's a show that I'm invested in, I'll do reactions to them. I'll give you guys some thoughts on them. Obviously, for the Agatha show, I wasn't interested in that. Granted, some of the stuff I've been hearing, though, after the show's over, since it's been over, it's not that bad. So who knows? I may revisit it properly, so I'll give you guys my own thoughts on it. But it just wasn't a show I was interested in. Again, nothing against the cast, nothing against people like Catherine Hahn. They're not friends of the program or anything. But anyway, traditionally, when there's a big Marvel show or a big Star Wars show, I'll give my thoughts on it. Except for Skeleton Crew, I will. And we'll start those in December, whenever the show debuts. I haven't actually checked, but I'm sure it's coming soon. But yes, those are the three main topics there: college football, Marvel, Star Wars, and then Buccaneers stuff is usually towards the end. So if you're new here, welcome. Subscribe to YouTube and Spotify podcast feed. And also subscribe to us follow us on Twitter as well. At @4words_pod. Find us on Twitter over there. Or find us over there on Twitter. That's our handle. Got some thoughts here on Mark Stoops. Just a segue here. This is a topic, or I guess segment topic I've been wanting to do for a while, for a couple of weeks. I've touched on this a little bit, so I'm going to sort of break this down a little bit. So, Mark Stoops is the most successful head coach in my lifetime at Kentucky. He is. He's been there for over 10 years. He's been very successful there. Multiple 10-win seasons, multiple bowl seasons. Like, think about this. Is something that Bud Elliott's mentioned before, and I completely agree with him. I mean, I know it's kind of low-hanging fruit to bring this up, but he's not wrong. That whenever Mark Stoops leaves Kentucky, you will never see them be this successful. I completely agree with him. At least in our lifetimes, maybe in his, maybe in mine, maybe because I'm a lot younger than he is, but generally in our lifetimes, we'll never see Kentucky be this successful ever again. More than likely, because once Stoops goes on, whatever, maybe he goes to Iowa and replaces Kirk Ferentz when he retires at some point, because he is an Iowa alum, Stoops is. So whenever he leaves and whenever he's not the coach there, that program's definitely going to fall back to where they were under like Joker Phillips, and maybe they'll have an occasional 6-win season, but you're not going to see them have this sustained success in 10-win seasons. Never going to happen again, more than likely. And if you're a Kentucky fan, at least football fan, at least thinking positively here, this has been the best time of your life, because you need something to get yourself through fall, to get yourself ready for basketball season, because that's what a lot of folks care out there. And I don't blame you for thinking that way, because, I mean, look, that's, the Midwest of America is literally a basketball country. I have, Michigan, and a lot of folks cringe me when I say Michigan's a blue blood of basketball. I think they could be. No, they're not. Michigan State, Indiana, Kentucky, Louisville, Cincinnati. So not to talk about college basketball, but you understand what I'm saying, right? Because like Kentucky fans need something to hold them over until when basketball starts in November. Football under Mark Stoops has done a very good job of doing that. Whenever Mark Stoops leaves, that's probably going to change. And again, we'll never see Kentucky be that successful again, at least in my lifetime. But I'm saying that to get you to kind of frame where I'm coming at. That I don't hate Mark Stoops. I came for his job to be lost. I'm not saying he's in any trouble, like real trouble, but I do think there are some discussions that are being had, at least within the fan base, at least nationally. This season for Kentucky has been pretty bad. Granted, given what they had coming in, because again, if you look at the portal stuff, they brought in, Brock Vandergriff to come in, and he's been, let's just call it what it is. It's been a very sad season for him. It's not been good enough. He was a former, I think, 5-star kid, comes in. He was at Georgia as a backup to Stetson Bennett and Carson Beck. He ends up leaving him because Kentucky felt like a big get for them. I kind of thought so because, again, you're elevating your room. But it's just been bad. It's not been good. He's been struggling. They also missed Liam Cohen, who was the coordinator for them for a couple years under Stoops in different terms. Not in like consecutive years, but in different years. Now he's, of course, the coordinator for my Buccaneers. But they obviously missed that. So there's a couple of things for Kentucky football that are missing this year. Again, you're losing a very good offensive mind at Liam Cohen. He was there a couple years ago, leaves, comes back, leaves again. You have Will Levis last year, who a lot of people thought was going to be a really good quarterback, or at least a couple years ago. He's not been very good. Or he wasn't good when he was there, and he's frankly not been very good at least in the pro level. But Vandergriff was looked at to be that successor for them. He's not been good enough. It's been pretty dreadful. And they have not. Well, they had Will Levis, and I think they had Leary. That was the guy. Yeah, that was the guy before Levis. Leary from NC State came in, kind of same, kind of not really that good. I mean, I'm not criticizing the kid, but it's like he wasn't what we thought he would be. Like, if you get what I'm trying to say here. But so you lose that experience at quarterback in the past couple of years. You have a guy who's relatively green, and you don't know much about him, and it turns out he's not very good. And you also lost a really good offensive mind. And not to mention, the schedule has been pretty tough, right? I mean, well, I say tough too relatively because it should have been workable, right? Like you have South Carolina. Yes, it's a good. They have the best defensive line in the country. Their offense is not that good. Georgia, you kept it close to them. Cool. You beat Ole Miss. Great. But then the last 4 games, Vanderbilt, L. Florida, L. Auburn, terrible team, L. Tennessee, somewhat competitive, and you still lost. I mean, this is Kentucky football. Like Mark Stoops, he's been there, has been sort of like Mike Gundy over in the Big 12, just a model of consistency. And it's not been good enough. And again, the reasons why I think they're struggling is, again, Brock Vandergriff is just not, they missed on him. They also missed Liam Cohen. What I don't want to have people do is put him on the hot seat. Like my thoughts on anyone who's bringing up Mark Stoops on the hot seat, crump up the paper, throw it behind me because I think that's bull crap and I think that's BS. He's not going anywhere. Like if you want to fire Mark Stoops, go ahead. Because again, guarantee you, however he leaves, wherever he leaves on his own ambitions or he just gets fired, I guarantee you, if you're a Kentucky fan or you're in the administration, you'll never have success ever again in football in your lifetime or in my lifetime. So do not entertain that. Do not even think about putting him on the hot seat. He's not. He's completely fine. Yes, this is a lost season, but he's not any hot. He's not going anywhere. However, I do mention all that, but there's also the other element here, which is the Texas A&M flirtation that happened this. If you guys don't remember, because a lot of things have happened since then. Before Mike Elko was hired at Texas A&M, it was going to be Mark Stoops. Reported by a lot of people. Pete Thamel, Bruce Feldman reported it. Looked like it was going to happen. Fans didn't like that, and College Station and adjacent areas. If you're an A&M fan, you didn't like that. You made it pretty vocal. When it got leaked out, Texas A&M seemed like they got cold feet. They told Stoops, sorry, thanks, but no thanks. They ended up going after Mike Elko, and reasonably it's worked out, at least for Texas A&M. Hasn't worked out for Kentucky. And I think a lot of folks have pointed it out. I've also pointed it out. I mean, not just me talking about it. Other folks have also mentioned this, that part of the contributing factors to why this season has gone the way it is it doesn't seem like Mark Stoops got that team back when he flirted with A&M. It's kind of like what happened with Scott Satterfield at Louisville. Do you guys remember this story? I don't think it's been told a whole lot. Or at least I don't think a lot of folks remember this. I do. So if you don't remember this, Scott Satterfield was at Louisville before he was at App State. He's at Cincinnati now. In 2020, when that South Carolina job opened up, before Carolina went after Shane Beamer, this is when Muschamp got fired or had been relieved of his duties. And this is when, Beamer was on that list. Shane Beamer, now he's obviously the coach now, but before him, the big rumor going around, or I guess rumor, was Scott Satterfield. He was very interested in the job. He met with officials. That was leaked out by multiple pretty credible sources. And it turns out that was real. It ended up getting leaked out. And I don't remember the story about. I know it happened, but I think what happened is, at least if I remember this correctly, either they hired Shane Beamer and then Satterfield ended up, not getting the job, or Satterfield interviewed for the job and we turned him down. But either way, however way it happened, Satterfield openly admitted that he interviewed for the job, which a lot of folks in the industry back then and even to this day have said, you should never do that. Like, that was completely stupid for Satterfield to openly just say, oh, yeah, you interviewed for a job. Like saying that, you may be asking yourself, Okay, well, big deal. You're being honest. There's times when you're. Let me rephrase that. There's times where being honest is okay. Like generally, most times it's being honest is fine. But there's also times where being honest is actually does you a lot more damage. And for Scott Satterfield, being honest, saying, "Hey, I interviewed with a South Carolina job. I'm completely, he apologized for it." Basically, like admitting he did do it, and those rumors were true, or those reports were true. Being honest in that aspect does a lot of damage to you, and that shows disloyalty. You're not loyal to the program. You're basically like what Scott Satterfield basically did was may as well just giving Louisville fans, boosters, and the administration the bird, the middle finger. Basically, that's what he did. If you want to put it in realistic terms, that sort of happened. That to me is sort of happening to Mark Stoops. Is that he interviewed? I don't know if he admitted it or not, but at least that report came out and it came from very reliable people. This is going to happen. It's sort of like Greg Schiano going to Tennessee. Like it got leaked out by very reputable people, and it was going to happen. It didn't happen because a lot of the fans didn't like it and didn't think it was good enough. Of course, you hire Mel Gelko, who was a less inexperienced coach, but still good enough. And of course, if you're an A&M fan, it's worked out. I mean, not to mention, of course, you know who he is. We used to work for the guy you fired, Jimbo, as a coordinator. But this Stoops thing with that flirtation was sort of what happened with Louisville and Scott Satterfield. You saw what happened with that, right? It got real sour. Satterfield ultimately left because, I think eventually he would have been fired, and the citation for him getting fired would have been that South Carolina flirtation. That is my concern with Mark Stoops. Because again, it's not just me saying it. Other folks have mentioned it. When that report came out and then ultimately not getting that job and him having to walk back to his team, metaphorically here, I think a lot of folks question his loyalty. Some of the players did, and I think a lot of them saw that as him not being loyal to them. It's very weird because, again, I'm not someone who's played college football. I'm not a former coach. I'm not a beat writer, so I don't know this stuff personally. But just from a 50,000-foot perspective, I can understand why players and fellow coaches would feel like, buddy, you literally apply if you were going to get this other job, and now you're coming back and you're wanting us to accept you back. Like, that to me is a concern. The loyalty thing is a concern. The locker room, whether or not Stoops got them back or not. Again, it's not just me saying it. Other pretty national people have admitted it, have said that too. That's something they believe is a issue there. So, look, Stoops not getting fired. He's fine. Yes, the A&M flirtation fan is a concern, and I do believe it is a concern. Is it something that can be repaired? Is it something one offseason can fix? Probably not, which is interesting. So, again, it's a lost season for multiple reasons. Yes, the loyalty thing and him flirting with A&M didn't help. Them missing on Brock Vandergriff also was adding more fuel to the situation. Not to mention you lost Liam Cohen, so it's a weird situation up there. Again, look, Mark Stoops is probably going to get a statue up there for what he's done there. Like, once he leaves and, much time has passed, like, people will honor him like a god up there. Like, he's literally the best coach in our lifetime for Kentucky football. So I've a ton of respect for him. Have a ton of respect for those fans because they cheer like heck, even though their team's probably going to suffer whenever he leaves. And it's just, I don't know, it's a weird situation up there. And I just don't really think a lot of folks are talking about it, but I'll talk about it. I care. Anyway, let's see how we're doing on time here. About an hour, so about what I expected. So we are, by the way, we're moving on to Buccaneer stuff. So if you're a college football fan, maybe the stuff doesn't interest you, move on, because if we're going to talk about Bucs versus 49ers. So for those people who are want to tune out from the playback, I know there's a lot of no one watching the stream, so it's kind of redundant, but just in case there is, if you're not if you're not an NFL fan, if you're just a college football fan, you're only here for the college football stuff. If you want to leave, you can. I have no problem with that. I'll see you on Tuesday. Enjoy the games and whatnot. But if you're an NFL fan, if you're a Buccaneers fan, get ready. As we're going to do this preview here for Bucs 49ers. Get some water here, and then we'll properly move into this segment. Going to check and see here if we are still live. We are. That's good. Okay. Buccaneers, 49ers, 1 o'clock on Fox. This is the game that Kevin Barker, Tom Brady, Tom Rinaldi, Aaron Andrews will be at. So this is how it works the NFL. It's, the CBS and Fox, the two networks who do the day games. They bounce back every single week. So it's 1 week Fox has the 2 late games, which is sort of, well, I guess now the time change are kind of basically primetime games. Most of the time, especially on the East Coast, they're going to start when the sun's literally setting, so it's going to be a night game. But generally, they do alternate. So this week it's CBS, the 2 late games. Next week will be Fox. So this week for Fox, Kevin Burkhardt, Tom Brady, the 2 lead guys, are calling the Bucs 49ers games. So generally, I guess that's their game of the week. Those 2 are calling it. But yeah, so they'll be there. If I ever recall, this is the first time since 2019 that the 49ers have traveled to Tampa. The last couple of times have been a road game, and none of those results have boded well for Tampa. In fact, they've been pretty dreadful the past couple of times they've been there. Tom's last year, ironically, just a splattering a Josh Pate, Sarah McLachlan special a couple years ago. Just sad. One of the worst blowouts I've seen as a Bucs fan. I mean, I've been a fan for a while, so I've seen pretty bad losses. Of course, nothing will top that Falcons Bucs game back in 2014 on that infamous Thursday night. Just a total massacre. But that one a couple years ago was tough to watch, just given the fact how much better the team was from that Falcons game back in 2014 to where they are even today. It was pretty jarring to see that. Last year's game was definitely a lot closer. Now, of course, this game is going to be at home for the first time since 2019. That was, of course, Jameis's last year. And that was the game, ironically, that started the Jameis Winston 33 touchdowns of 30 interceptions. So, I think he had a couple pick sixes in that game. A lot of turnovers. And so that kind of tells you how much has changed since then. But according to FanDuel, San Francisco is a 5.5-point favorite. A lot of injuries here for both teams. The injury report for Tampa looks like this. Vita Vea questionable. I think he's probably going to play. Yeah, he should play. Most of these guys on this list are probably going to play. So Vita Vea going to play. Jordan Whitehead will play. Golson should play. Ben Bredesen should also play. He's the O lineman, so he should be good to go for San Francisco. A couple key guys are out. A couple of receivers, it looks like, and Nick Bosa's going to be out. Or they're listed as questionable, so they should be able to go. There are rumors, too, that have been going around. Well, not rumors, reports, because it's coming from guys like people like Adam Schefter have been reporting this. So they're not rumors, clarified. They're reports that it seems like Christian McCaffrey might be able to go, which, if that's the case, that doesn't bode well for Tampa, because Tampa defensively is one of the worst teams and stopping the run. They have not, which is strange because it used to be Todd Bowles' calling card. It's not been there this year. Though they did okay against Kansas City, though Kansas City's not a run-first team. They're more like a air raid type team. So Kansas City not running the ball on Tampa makes sense because you don't have to. Tampa secondary has been pretty bad, very leaky. The 49ers are not much of a throwing team. Let's just be real. That's not who they are, but they're still a really good team. Brock Purdy, I know a lot of folks will get mad at me for saying this, but he's a good quarterback. Yes, his stats this year aren't very good, but he's still efficient enough. He's gotten the job done. Mason, the running back there for San Fran, decent replacement for McCaffrey. It almost seems like you put any running back in that system, they do well, which is expected, right? It's Kyle Shanahan, his dad, Mike. George Kittle, clearly the best receiver on that team. Very dangerous, very good tight end. One of the best. He's literally the guy who created National Tight Ends Day, which was, I think, last weekend, or a couple weekends ago. He's really good. Like him, Kelsey, and a couple other tight ends. I could also mention like Mark Andrews for the Ravens is really good. He's definitely one of those that can easily expose a very battered Tampa Bay secondary. Tampa Bay team that just overall has been really banged up and has not been doing well defensively this year. I think if anything this year, I mean, we'll do a more formal, I guess, report card, if you will, or a checkup on Tampa because their bye week is next week, so they don't play. So instead of doing a game preview, I'll do a check-in, like a midseason check-in, if you will. But defensively for Tampa, it's been bad this year. It's not been good enough. Pass defense has been pretty poor. It's been exposed a lot this year. Run defense has not been good. Even in some of their wins this year. I mean, even the Detroit win, you give up a lot of yards, you still won. It's just not been good enough. Again, that's Todd Bowles' calling card, which is defense, and it's not been at the same level even was last year. Like going from Tampa this year to Tampa's defense this year. Yes, I know you lost a couple of key contributors, but it's been pretty bad. I mean, the last couple of games for Tampa, I mean, they're 1-5 for a reason, and that defense has not been good enough. I mean, every single game, with the exception of New Orleans, they've given up in these losses. 36, 41, 31, 30. Now, on the bright side, or if you want to go a little bit positive, some of the games that the 49ers have lost, they've not been, even in the games they've won, not been scoring like 40-plus points, but actually, maybe not, because they've actually they do score a lot of points. I mean, even some of the games they lose, so take that back. I mean, Tampa's going to give a lot of points because I don't think their defense is that good. I think it's probably comparable to Dallas in some ways, though I don't think they're that bad. But either way, it's going to be a challenge. I mean, I don't know what to say. I mean, Kyle Shanahan, outside of playing Kansas City, I mean, that's like a psychological thing, it seems like, for them. They can look good versus most teams. But the San Francisco team, again, they've also been banged up, much like Tampa has. Again, Christian McCaffrey, I don't know if he's going to play. Just a weird situation. I don't feel really comfortable whoever I pick here. I'll reveal that here in just a second. But for Tampa to win this game, if they're going to pull this off, if they're to get some momentum and go in the bye week, they've got to play the best defensive performance of the season, which is being able to stop the run and prove that you can still do it. Because in the last few games, I guess excluding Kansas City, you've struggled doing so. I mean, you're one of the worst teams defensively in stopping the run. You're facing a really good running team. Hopefully, you guys can harass Brock Purdy. You can do that. He's certainly one that can be had on in terms of getting pressure on him. Vita Vea, I mean, he showed you on Monday night. He's a machine, not Bert Kreischer, different type of machine we're talking about. But in terms of a guy that can penetrate other teams' offensive line and get to the quarterback and sack him, he's really good. I mean, I don't know what else to say. If you didn't watch Monday night, then that's like example A of 1,000 examples of how good Vita Vea is. So, and I think for Tampa too, it's taking care of the football, because what's interesting for Baker, yes, he has a lot of interceptions and he has 9. He also leads the league in touchdowns too. No one's really discussing that. Very quiet year. By the way, he is also listed as questionable, so that's kind of concerning. That's something that's been sort of seeping out a little bit, being reported on. He's probably going to play. I mean, they have a bye week coming up, so realistically, he'll probably be fine. If he doesn't play, by the way, I mean, it's Kyle Trask, who I'm still kind of the defender of, because I think we haven't seen him play a whole lot, but probably going to not really see him play that much meaningfully unless Baker's not able to go. But he is listed as questionable too, so that's something I missed. I'm going through the list here. But if he is starting, which I think he will, he didn't turn the ball over last week, so hopefully that transfers over. So can't turn the ball over. Got to make sure you stop the run. Got to make sure you can get some of these other pass catchers more comfortable. I sort of saw that on Monday because Kate Otten, again, everyone seems like in Tampa Bay land seems to be shitting on him for some reason, but he's had a pretty good year so far as a tight end. I mean, he's had a good year last year. He's been good since his rookie year. I've always been a big fan of him. He's been a fairly decent replacement for the guys who've had in the past. Now, he's not certainly up to those level like a Gronk or whatever, but in terms of being a serviceable tight end who could elevate to a level of like a Mark Andrews or, one of those guys in the AFC, those other tight ends, at least maybe he gets that level at some point. Could, if he continues to develop. Because if you saw on Monday, I mean, he's pretty reliable. He can catch the ball pretty well. He's a good blocker as well. Of course, Mike Evans is not going to play this game, so that hurts a little bit in receiver core, but Sterling Shepard stepped up a little bit. So you want him to step up a little bit as well. Running backs have been fairly consistent. Bucky Irving and Rashard White and Shaw Tucker. And that's a decent stable, at least especially with Rashard White in the passing game can really help because he's a fairly good utility back, catch the football, run the ball fairly well. What concerns me for Tampa here as I make this prediction and we kind of in the show here, it's a very sure we have a bye coming up. So that does concern me. Now, granted, on Tuesday, I felt good about it, generally because I didn't have done my research yet. On Tuesday, when I talked about the game, when we did the Tuesday show, I felt good about it. My mind's changed a little bit. I don't feel good about it. It's a short week. San Francisco, team that's getting a lot more healthier now. If McCaffrey plays, then I am very much so afraid because again, that's one of the best running back in all of football with college NFL going against a run defense that can be had on, and I feel very nervous about that if I was a Bucs fan. Or as a Bucs fan, I do feel nervous about it. So because of that, it's a shortened week. I think San Francisco wins the game outright, and I think they cover. I don't feel it doesn't give me joy to say that, but that does happen. Tampa is going to be 4-6, and any goals and aspirations of getting to the playoffs, getting to the postseason, really do start to dwindle a little bit. And yes, technically there's a wild card spot potentially, but here's the thing: that AFC West is loaded. A lot of those teams will probably get some of those probably. So we'll get the Rams, 49ers, Cardinals, even the Seahawks, 49ers, of course. Like those are teams that will be eligible for a wild card spot. They probably will. So for Tampa, this is a game that in order to keep your chances alive of just winning, maybe not winning the division because now Atlanta has sort of separated themselves, unfortunately. Even getting a wild card spot, this is one of those games I think for that resume and building that, is one of those games there's a lot of urgency on it. But unfortunately, with it being a short week, you have a bye week coming up, you're not fully healthy. I don't feel good about it. Could be wrong. I hope I'm wrong. But I think San Francisco is a team that is just as needing of a win as well. So it's kind of cliche, but it's a you're in must-win mode for both of these teams, especially now we're like 9 games in now. But yeah, concern for Tampa. It's a short week. I don't like it. Some of the injury stuff is still concerning, even though, yes, you played pretty well and you represented yourself very well on Monday Night Football against the best team in the NFL. It's still a short week, and that dynamic really does concern me. And luckily, you get a bye week to heal up a little bit. You get Mike Evans back, but then you get rewarded by going on the road to the Giants, I believe, if I recall. Look at the schedule here real quick. So you get San Francisco, get the bye week. They play San Francisco, and then they play the Giants the week of Thanksgiving, and you're on the road. So warm weather team going to New York week of Thanksgiving, weather-wise, is not built well. I said that most in the preseason. That game concerned me. It still does kind of concern me. So, look, I'm hoping I really do hope I'm wrong about this game, but I think the 49ers are going to win if they cover. So don't like it. Don't like the spot. If it was a normal week, I'd feel a little bit more better about it, but I just don't feel good about it. Given the value that it's a short week and all the injury stuff. So, yeah, that's kind of a somber way to end the stream here and the podcast. If you're listening to this on the podcast when I release this later, but that's the show for today. That's it for the shows this week. Again, make sure you subscribe to the podcast feed, YouTube channel. Now that we're using it now for shows, make sure you subscribe over there on both of those. Again, nothing happens. I don't call you. I don't send you emails or mail or whatever. It's completely free. I mean, all you need is a Google account to sign into YouTube. I mean, that's all you need. Same for Spotify, too. You don't have to get the premium version. Yes, the show will probably have ads in it, but that's fine. But make sure you subscribe to each platform. Follow me on Twitter as well. Also, while you're over there, like the videos, too. Like the streams. Leave comments there. And also leave the 5-star reviews as well. Helps us a lot with the algorithm. And hopefully someday we'll continue to grow. some of these shows I've listened to, like, Cover 3 and Josh Pate's show, a lot of these shows have to start somewhere, and you got to start doing this somehow. And I think I smartly decided, you know what, got to start this somehow. These tools are now available to me and to the general public, and now being able to have not only doing stuff on Spotify, which is used to be exclusive. Now it's a YouTube and Spotify show. Now we're here. So, first full week of doing shows live on YouTube. So, it's hard to imagine telling myself back in the spring and summer when I was thinking about doing this, when I was just originally thinking about doing just a Spotify only show. Though I was going to think about doing YouTube as well, but posting the shows on YouTube separately, but that was becoming really complicated and whatnot. But thankfully now with a live stream or live streaming method here, we can do it this way. So it's worked out. But has been the show here. Enjoy your weekend. Enjoy the games this weekend. I'll see you guys on Tuesday. Well, I'll see you guys live on Tuesday. I'll let you guys know beforehand when we're streaming. There's no real set time, actually. It's just whenever I'm able to stream. But we'll be here on Tuesday, more than likely. So until then, enjoy the game. Enjoy the weekend. Until then, see you next time on Tuesday, I guess.